Hey everybody, this is Games Plus James and welcome back to our 2D platformer tutorial series looking at making various different elements that you might need to make your own platform game. So today we're going to take a look at, last time we looked at how to jump on enemies to hurt them. This time we're going to take a look at how to attack them with, we're going to use a sword in our example here, but it could be punching an enemy, it could be hitting them with any kind of weapon that you want. Just the basics of having a little melee fighting kind of system. But first we're going to fix up one little issue we had with our head stomping on enemies that we covered in the last episode, which someone else pointed out to me, which is that if you just, with the size of the box we made there, if you just walk into the enemies, boop, 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 oh, he's destroyed. Well, that's no use. That's not what we want to happen at all. We want our enemies to be able to hurt us, but not us be able to hurt them. And very easy to fix that. We just make this little box a tiny bit smaller. So we have our head stomper box inside of our player, and we just go for our size. It's their X size, and I think the best thing to do is shrink it down to about the size of the feet of the player, so that you know when the feet land on, when one of the feet lands on the enemy, then you know you're hurting them. So if we play the game now from here, we should hopefully only just take damage from the enemy. So we walk into him a few times. Oh, we jumped on him and killed him. So there we go. Perfect. That's exactly what we want to happen. So now we're going to look at adding a little weapon to the game. And this is just going to reuse some of the scripts we've already created. We don't actually have to write any more scripts for this episode at all. First thing you're going to need to do is re-import the image that we've been using for all our various elements to our levels. So I've updated it online, so download it again. And if I open this up here and we zoom in, see, look, there's a little sword item here now. So what we'll do is we'll navigate to where that is in our... Oh, sorry, not even in here. Yeah, in here. If we right-click on where that item is and then go Show and Explorer, that'll open the item here, because we don't want to drag the new one in here, or it'll create an extra bit of art. We could do that if you wanted to, but it's not very helpful. What we want to do is just replace the same sprite image. So we'll copy that one from there, paste it in here, place the final destination. You could of course go find where your files are yourself, but it's much easier to just right click and go Show and Explorer. So when we pop back in here now, if we go to our sprite editor, here we go, our sword is here. So let's zoom in on him, and we'll just drag a little box around it, and we'll just call this player sword. There we go. So now what we're going to do with this is we're going to grab it, drag it down here to there, and what we want to do is we want to kind of line it up so it looks like the player's kind of holding the sword. Well, not that he's holding the sword, it's a little bit in front of him, say, for example, because we haven't exactly got a very detailed character that has a hand that's able to grip things or anything like that. If you did, of course you'd want to line it up with that, but what we're going to do is just place our little sword here, and then we're going to start adding stuff that will make it be able to hurt the enemy. So we'll just add a box collider 2D and make that a trigger, and then we're going to add hurt enemy on contact, and damage to give enemy, we'll say 3 again, so we kill this guy here. Bounce on enemy, don't need to worry about that, because we don't want this to make us bounce or anything. So this is our sword, and obviously now, oh no, well, we need to make it a child as a player, so press and play won't actually do anything for us. Let's just undo that. Drag our sword and drag it onto the player, so now it's a child of that. So now if we press play and we start going along, we'll see, oh, the sword is there. Oh, it does the damage to the enemies just like we wanted, but we want to be able to activate the attack. We don't want it to just randomly attack these guys when we see him. Maybe you just want to charge straight into enemies or anything like that, but we want to have a little bit of attack animation. And that's one of the great things about the animation system in Unity, is that we can take advantage of the animation system to make this sword appear and disappear and actually do damage to enemies. So what we're going to do here is we're going to disable that, so now it's completely invisible, won't do any damage to anybody. And we're going to go to our animation thing here, and we have to select the player, and we have walking, idle, jumping, all this, and we want to create a new clip here. We're going to call this sword attack. I'm going to go to our animations folder, put that in there. So now we have sword attack, and we're not going to worry about the player sprite. That's going to stay the same. What we're going to do is we're going to add in a little sword attack element here. So we've got our sword, and we're not even going to add it in. Sorry, what am I talking about? We already have our sword. So what we're going to do here is simply go to our player sword, and we're going to hit the record button, and we're just going to turn it on. So now it appears in the game object place here, and we're going to set this frame rate to about 20, I think. And we want this animation to last for about a second, so we'll go over to the 1 second mark here, and what we're going to do is actually just copy this, and then here at the 1 second mark we're going to paste it. So now the sword is there at the end and here, but we don't want the sword to be immediately here. We want it to appear as the player attacks. So we're going to move that 2 frames on, and then back here to start again we're going to turn it off. Oh no, we don't want to turn off a player, sorry. We want to turn the sword off like that. There we go. And actually just after that last frame of that, we want to turn the sword off again. So that during the animation, the sword appears and then disappears. We don't want it accidentally hanging around afterwards. But it'll be much more interesting if we can get the sword to move along the way. So what we're going to do is we're going to have it here. It's turned off. We're going to drag the sword back to there. It doesn't really matter. Oh, we haven't changed the position here actually, so we'll just undo that. So what we'll do is we're only changing the X position. We're going to copy this, Control and C, and then go back to this frame. Make sure we're selected on player sword. Slide that back to there, and now here we're going to paste back in that X value that we had. So that's that one, and we want to do the same at the last frame as well to make sure it doesn't move. So paste that in there. Perfect. So you can see the sword is appearing and attacking, but in this frame it's not on. So rather than turning it on in the last frame where we know the final attack is going to be, we're going to turn it on 1 frame earlier. So then it'll look like, bam, the player attacks. See, it just pops out like that. Boom, boom. So now we've got a little bit of action to our sword, and it'll look like it's doing some damage to the enemy, which is perfect. So, oh no, don't want to play. Back in our animator, yes, sorry, that's where we're going here now. Sure, we had the player selected again. So now we've got our idle, our walking, our jumping, but we're going to rejig these a little bit because we don't want to just go from the any state to the jumping. We actually kind of want to use the any state to activate our sword attack whenever we want. So rather than this transition here, which is to jumping, which goes from grounded being false, we're going to delete this transition. And instead we're going to set that from our idle position. So from here we'll go, if grounded is false, then we're jumping up in the air, and then if it's true, it'll drop back down on the ground. But also if we're walking and we jump, then we want to make that transition as well. So we'll make that here. So again, if grounded is true, or sorry, grounded is false, then jumping. And basically, so then if we're jumping and then grounded is true again, then it'll go back to idle and it'll go back to walking if you're going fast enough. So then we have our sword attack, and we want to go to our sword attack from any state. So what we're going to do is make a transition, and from what we actually want to do is create a new parameter. Say bool. So we'll call this one sword. And the way this will work is it'll check. I completely forgot we are going to have to write a slight bit of script to be able to press a button and make something happen, which would be helpful. But it'll check for when the sword boolean is turned to true, and then it'll carry out the sword attack. So when sword is true, then it'll do the attack, and then after a certain amount of time, so around about a second, like we have our animation done. So we see here it's automatically ticked has exit time here, and our exit time, instead of being 0.76, which is a variable that has been cited, by Unity. We'll set that to about 1.1, so it's a little bit longer than our animation. Actually, we want it to be a little bit shorter than our animation, just so it goes to the end and then it disappears. And we don't want to have any transition duration. Actually, this is something to be aware of when you're making transitions in the newest version of Unity, in Unity 5. It automatically creates a little bit of a duration to blend between animations sometimes. For example, here transition duration is 0.1. We don't, as it's a kind of pixel art game, we want it to switch from one animation to another straight away. We don't want it to kind of fade in between or anything like that. So we just have to check the new transitions that we made back here. So here we go. We don't want that. We don't want walking to stop after half a second, so we don't want it to have an exit time, and we don't want any transition duration. That's fine. And this one, see, look, this has a transition duration of 15 seconds. We don't want it to take 15 seconds to go from jumping to your idle position. So we'll do that. And we'll turn off the exit time. And these ones are all fine. Perfect. Okay, so now we've got a little system sorted out. What we need to do is go into our scripts and go into our player controller. And once this opens up here in Mono Develop, we should be able to, yeah, so we've got our animator, we've got our player movement, we've got our jumping up here as well. So after all that stuff, there we have our shooting. So after all that, we'll have another if statement here that will check for another key. So if input dot get key code dot let's use L for this one. So if that is true, then we'll simply go anim dot set bool sword. We're going to set it to true. Perfect. But we don't want it to stay true the whole time. We want it to activate true for that one frame of animation, and then in the next frame we want it to go, oh, if sword is still true, then it's false. So we'll just put right before this, we'll just say if sword, then sword equals false. So what that does, it goes, if sword is true, then sword is equal to false. And that's just to make sure that whenever the player presses the button, it can restart the little sword stabby animation. So there we go, we'll save that, convert it if we need to, of course, go back to the game. And now, hopefully, if everything's gone according to plan, it should all be working fine. We'll see if that is actually true or not. Oh, compiler errors. The name sword does not exist in the current context. What is that happening? So on line 115. Oh, silly man that I am. Yes, of course sword doesn't exist. No, this little thing is completely wrong. We should do if anim dot get bool. I don't know where my head was going. If anim dot get bool sword. So if what it'll do is it'll check the state of the sword value or parameter in the animator, and if it finds that to be true, then it will go anim dot set bool sword to to false. That's what we want to do. We can't just randomly call sword when we have nothing, we've no variables for sword or anything like that. We're just making up crazy things there. Okay, so now hopefully it should compile properly for us. And yes, it's all good. So now we'll hit play. And if we walk up to an enemy, oh, there we go. We got a little sword, stabby out. Oh, it actually feels like it's a little bit too long, doesn't it? So let's tighten that up a little bit. So if we go back to our animator, change our exit time, change that down to 0.5. Because I feel like it feels much too long that the sword stays out for. That feels a bit better now. So we go chop, killed him, killed him. There we go, perfect. So we had a couple of people asking how you could, for example, destroy blocks. And as it stands here, like we can see, we can just like attack into those blocks, but nothing happens. And a very simple way to do it would be to kind of copy our hurt enemy script, and make a few little changes. So we'll make a little script here, and we'll call this destroy block on contact. So we have all our blocks. Let me find if this will open. Wait for Mono Develops to do stuff. Come here. Okay, so we have all our ground blocks, and at the moment, as they're all like a bunch of separate objects, then we're able to interact with each individual object. Later on in the series, we're going to take a look at designing levels as a whole, so there'll be one big massive mesh. And with that, you wouldn't be able to do what we're doing now. What you'd actually need is like to have individual blocks that will be destroyed, but which you could put in place separately within Unity, which would be the ideal way to do it. But what we're going to do here is we're going to take our hurt enemy on contact. So we have all this stuff. We've damage give, minor body 2D, all this stuff. That doesn't really, that does our bounce and all this. But the only thing that's actually important is this little section here. So we go to our destroy block on contact. We'll paste this in here, and we don't want this little section, and we don't want this little section. So actually, we could have just written the script. We're going to do destroy other dot game object. So what we need is a way to check for our ground. And at the moment, our ground, it has a layer assigned to it, but we haven't given it any tag. So it would actually make sense to give a tag to all these ground items here. So we don't have a ground tag. We'll just quickly go and we'll add a new tag here, and we'll call this ground. Perfect. And now if we highlight all these bad boys again and go to ground there like that, now they all have a tag of ground. So in our script, if we go other.tag equals ground, then it'll destroy that object. And you could have them with a certain specific tag, for example, like destroyable door or something like that. And you could set it up again. We could set it up in the same way, much the same way as the hurt enemy on contact. We could have a damage amount to give and give that bit of door. We could give that a certain enemy health amount if we wanted to, but we're just going to simply make it destroy. So if we hit play here, oh no, it won't do anything because we didn't attach the script to the object. So what we actually need to do is find our player, go to our player sword here, and add the component destroy block on contact. So now, once the game starts going, as you can see up here, we're perfectly fine. We'll kill this guy to get him out of here, and then boop, oh, block's gone. Oh god, we fell down. Now we're dead. Oh, it was probably a bad idea to destroy the block right below our checkpoint, but there you go. That's the basic idea of it. That's how it would work. How you could set up doors or something that are easy to be destroyed, or any other items of furniture. I don't know, whatever kind of stuff you want to have lying around your level. Can we destroy that? No, we can't destroy the spike because he's a different thing altogether. He isn't tagged spike, or he isn't tagged as the ground. But it's fun. We can destroy the whole world if we want to. Not that we really do. You could go around making a game like Terraria or something like that. Obviously, this will be the very basic start of it. There's a lot more other stuff you need to manage with stuff like that. But there you go. Yes, we've got our little attack for our enemy. We can jump on top of them. We can do a lot of different things now. So thanks for watching, everybody. I'll be back, of course, with more 2D platformer goodness. I think in the next episode we're going to take a look at designing multiple levels and transition them from one level to another here in Unity. But thanks for watching, everybody. I will be back soon. Goodbye. Thanks for watching this episode, and if you'd like to see just how some of the concepts we've covered can be brought together into a fully fledged game, then head to portalnauts.com and check out the demo for my game that I've been working on for the last while. It uses a lot of the concepts we covered so far in the series, as well as other things that we're going to cover in the future. So if you want to get a feel for where we're going and what kind of things you can make with these with the basics of Unity, head over there, try out the game for yourself, and let me know what you think of it, of course. And the best place to let me know is to head to Twitter @GamesPlusJames. Say hi, I'm always there, ready to say hello and do stupid things. But also, if you'd like to see some of the game being worked on and developed in real time, head to twitch.tv/GamesPlusJames, where I regularly stream development of the game, and you can get to see behind the scenes of how things all work. So, head there, say hello, and I'll see you all in the near future.